Hello, everyone. It's Sibyl Star. I'm here to give the astrology forecast for the Scorpio new moon that is coming on November 13th at 20 degrees, 43 or 44 minutes of Scorpio. It depends on which ephemeris one uses as to what it is. Anyway, it's at 1:27 a.m. Pacific time. Now I'm going to show you the chart first so that we can kind of go over that. All right. Let's see here, screen share. There we are. All right, so here is the chart itself. And like I said, Scorpio new moon, it is on November 13th, 1:27 a.m. And it is at 20 degrees, 43 minutes of Scorpio. And this new moon here is tightly conjunct Mars in Scorpio. It's also a conjunct Ceres in Scorpio. We're going to be talking about all of this, and they're all opposite Uranus, and they're all trine Neptune. So this is a really big complex. And of course, here's Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, or the modern day ruler. Mars is the ancient ruler. Mars is the more ancient ruler. Pluto is the modern ruler. It's up here, of course, in Capricorn. Pluto is in a square to the nodes. It's still in that square to the nodes, and the north node here is conjunct Eris at the 24 degrees, 25 degrees of Aries, and it's opposite the south node, of course, and Athena. Athena is, so they're in Libra. So the south node is at 25 of 24, 48 of Libra, conjunct Athena. Okay. Venus is here. She is the ruler of the south node. And of course, Mars is also the ruler of the north node. So, Mars is just a very potent planet at this time, his energy, and what he actually is trying to tell us or teach us. Anyway, we've got Venus here. She's at 5 degrees of Libra. It's in her own sign. And she's conjunct what is called the Super Galactic Center. And we're going to talk about what that means. All right, what else we've got going on here? All right, we've got we've got a square between Saturn and Mercury. Mercury's at 4 degrees of Sagittarius, square Saturn at 0 degrees Pisces. It actually does make a T-square here with Black Moon Lilith, so she enters into the picture as well. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about. All right, so I also would like to show you as we start off, this is just such a powerful new moon. It's very transformative. It's really it really packs a punch and is very healing as well. So I want to show you this image of Scorpio as we start the, okay. All right. And because I really like this image of Scorpio. Okay, I'm going to bring myself down here. All right. So what you can see, Scorpio, they say Scorpio comes in like the scorpion, and with his stingers ready to strike, but then he evolves to the eagle. And the eagle is about transformation through courage, and the courage to look at those dark wounds that Scorpio is carrying. Scorpio has really come in to heal some old deep wounds, whether it's in our personal field, in the collective, in our ancestral, kind of wherever it's falling in your chart is what it's coming up. But ultimately, Pluto, it is to rise like the phoenix from the ashes over here, completely transformed. And here are the two emotional bodies. We've got the two rulers. Here's Mars, which is more related to the eagle, and Pluto's more related here to the phoenix. And here we've got, the person here, us, each one of us, as that we, Scorpio, even though it's a water sign, it also brings us into the fire. It's a very fiery water sign. It can be like steam, it can be boiling water. And of course, it's part of the alchemical process. And, I want to talk just a little bit about Pluto here. And so, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto says evolve or die. Okay, that's just the way it is. Pluto has no time for any bullshit. It's like, get your act together, do what you need to do, or whatever it is, it's time to let it go. Okay. But it's time for great leaps in our evolution. And part of that evolution of being able to do that is to be able to deal with our shadow material, to be able to look at it, having the courage to look at it, and then allow ourselves to integrate it and to be transformed through our emotional body. Pluto is like the compost. It brings up in us what is dead, what no longer has life, so that we can let that go and be part of our own composting material to prepare for rebirth. There's things that just no longer work for us. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be a certain emotional pattern, different ways we're dealing with life. Anyway, whatever is no longer working for us, Pluto and in the sign that it rules, Scorpio, it says that it's the time to let it go. And of course, Scorpio, it comes around the time of the Celtic wheel of the year of winter, when everything goes dead and barren here in the northern hemisphere. So it is a time of letting things die and then knowing there is a rebirth coming. Okay. And of course, Pluto is also brings in a time of great purification of these lower frequency emotions that tie us to this matrix of fear and control. And Pluto says you must feel it to heal it, and to integrate that shadow back into wholeness, into healing. So I just feel like this is a super good image of scorpionic energy to kind of know what we're in the midst of at this Scorpio new moon. Okay. All right. So anyway, we'll just keep talking more though about the rest of it. So anyway, as I said, it's also, I'm calling this talk Alchemy of Evolution. So Scorpio and Pluto are also very involved in the alchemical process, which is about transmuting lead into gold. I mean, this was the old scientific called, they're transmuting lead into gold, into the philosopher's stone, or what we would call the essence of ourselves. But on a psycho-spiritual basis, it's really about turning our darkness into light, aligning with our higher self. And the alchemical process takes place in our emotional body, because Pluto and Scorpio are both about feeling every emotion. Okay. And so in the alchemical process, we have fire. The main two components are fire and water. It's like the fire is turned way up high, and it's kind of like fire brings a healing crisis in our emotional body. And it's like bringing water to a boil, and as it boils, it becomes purified, and the excess is steamed off. Okay, what you don't need, so it boils down to a pure essence. Okay. And I also heard someone say once that in the alchemical process, the water also represents our support systems, our friends, as we're going through a crisis of any kind. And so when alchemy comes along, it does bring a crisis, but it is a crisis that brings our evolution. It brings us our growth. It pushes us to transform. So it is the fire that burns away everything that is not us, everything that is not authentic and true for us. Okay. It is a time of deep excavation and healing, becoming whole. And Pluto and Scorpio, as I said, say you have to feel it to heal it, and then let it go. Resisting the feeling of the emotion is painful. It's important to just allow it to come as it wants to come, and it may overwhelm you initially, but when it passes through, there will be a great release. And it's also important to know that we actually feel an emotion for 90 seconds. And any suffering, and this is, scientifically proven, and that any suffering after that is the story we tell ourselves about it, recalling whatever it was that happened and how it made us feel. And we just keep reopening that wound. Although I do believe as well often that there are deeper levels of healing that are happening if we're not able to let something go, that it may be that we're really getting down to the core issue. It may seem like it's one thing, but the truth is it is something else, and it may require some self-reflection about what that is. And Scorpio and Pluto often bring up grief and loss, and sometimes we just simply have to stop and grieve our losses, whatever they are. Sometimes we're just so busy, we have to go out and work, we're doing this, we're doing that, we don't take the time to do the emotional healing work that really needs to be done. And I feel like this Scorpio new moon, it really allows this to happen. But ultimately, as I said, we rise like the phoenix. That is the transformational process. But in how we do that is through forgiveness. And, Scorpio is known for holding a grudge, holding on to stuff unnecessarily, stuff that happened a long time ago, still pissed about it. In Scorpio, I'm going to say this new moon in Scorpio is saying, let it go. That holding on to those old emotions around a memory of a certain situation and how that made you feel. Holding grudges can make you bitter. Forgiveness can set you free. Let it go. It's just not worth holding on to. That old saying, it hurts so good. That's what Scorpio likes to go in there and, it hurts so good. It's like, stop doing that. What could, don't want to keep opening old wounds unless it's actually part of a really deeper process that is going on. Because when we can let it go and forgive ourselves and others, we are completely transformed. Because Pluto and Scorpio both allow us to transmute old hurts and traumas into love. Okay. The alchemy of Scorpio helps us shift old patterns of behavior that no longer serve us, helps us transform anger into power and strength, transmute grief into a deep connection with oneself and others, turn fear into insight and understanding, find compassion, empathy, and acceptance. And I also want to bring up, because, we're going to be talking about Mars and anger is actually one of the steps in the grieving process. And if you find yourself really stuck in a place of anger, it may be that there is something that you're grieving, you have not fully grieved, and you're and recognizing that is part of that process of grieving our losses. Okay. All right. So, as I said, this Scorpio new moon is conjunct Mars at 22 degrees of Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio is a very volatile kind of an energy. Well, it's opposite Uranus, and that's really the really volatile aspect. Mars in Scorpio is volatile on its own, but when it comes up with Uranus, it's even more so. And as I said, Mars is the ancient ruler of Scorpio. Mars is always a catalyst. And it's kind of like, when you're cooking and you want something to pop, to really kind of grab you, you put in cayenne pepper. And so Mars is kind of like that. It's kind of like adding cayenne pepper to the soup of whatever it is you're dealing with, because it makes things pop. It makes you deal with stuff that maybe, would stay hidden for a while, but Mars makes things pop. And in Scorpio, it becomes volcanic. But it's more of a slow burn that erupts, and whatever has been held below the surface comes to light in that eruption. Mars can bring up conflict, what is out of alignment within yourself. And with Mars, we can feel irritable, triggered, competitive, unsettled, and especially it can bring anger to the surface. Okay, and to know that with this new moon, our triggers are on the surface. Our triggers are just right there because it's popping. It's like it's time for these things to pop, to come out what has been hidden below the surface that we need to deal with. Okay, and to help ourselves heal. But it's important to know, if there could be a projection, say, someone made me angry, or someone made me feel like this. Well, the real truth of the matter is that those emotions belong to us. Someone may be a trigger for us. They may do something that actually triggers something that lives within us. And it's our job to look at that and to see what is it saying to me? What is it I need to deal with here? Okay, because we must deal with our inner demons, and the internal battle is what manifests in the outside world. Okay, and so as we are dealing with our inner demons, we're no longer projecting them out because we're dealing with what's within us. Okay, it's not their fault. This is what I'm dealing with. Okay, to know that anger, bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness will eat you up inside. And they don't affect the other person because it's really your journey. Like, why are they doing okay? I'm so miserable. Well, it's because it's your work to do. Okay, you are the one that suffers. Forgiveness is for you, not for them, to be able to let it go, whatever it is. Okay. All right. All right. It's opposite Uranus. And Uranus is the planet that is compared to lightning striking. It's sudden, it's swift, it's an aha moment. Everything can change on a dime when Uranus is around. There's really no predicting it. They say expect the unexpected. And so when it is opposite Mars, the energy is more difficult to manage. The energy is really volatile. It can be a field where we could be accident prone. I'm going to say with Mars opposite Uranus at this new moon, and I would say this new moon, the energy of it lasts for a full month. We know that it is setting something in motion, and to know that we could be accident prone, and to make sure you're not getting ahead of yourself, and that how you deal with your anger in healthy ways. If anger is what is coming up for you, make sure that it doesn't show up as road rage or some other very destructive way, because it could with Mars opposite Uranus, and your life can change on a dime based on a moment of an inability to control your emotions. And so it's important to feel your emotions, like I said, but to be aware of let's put it this way: if you're feeling anger, to go outside and work in the yard, to find a healthy outlet so that it doesn't pop up in a really inappropriate or unhealthy way. Maybe is a better way to deal with it. Okay. All right. And also Taurus, Uranus is in Taurus. And Uranus, like I said, is at 21 degrees of a Taurus, opposite the Scorpio moon and Mars, but mainly Mars, is what I'm talking about at this moment. But it's opposite the whole new moon. Okay. So Taurus says, be calm. Everything is unfolding how it needs to. Okay. And Taurus says, go slow. Don't get ahead of yourself, because that is when accidents happen. It's like, yes, we are in the midst of an emotional storm. There are still 5 planets in water signs. And so that indicates very turbulent emotions, and Uranus stirs it up. It stirs the pot. So it's stirring up these emotions, getting them going so that we can become aware of them, can release them, can flow with them. Okay. But it says to be like the tree in the storm, the stillness at the center while the storm swirls around. Okay. Also, the consciousness of Mother Earth, Uranus is known as the divine mind. So in Taurus, it would be the divine mind of Mother Gaia, to know that is very accessible. And Uranus is connected to the crown chakra. And the crown chakra is one of the messages is about being calm and connected to source. Okay. And I received this message from her as I was in the woods that, she's one of our prime guides during this time. She says, come to her to get settled, to be like that tree, to find your inner stillness, to find your place of calm. Because she does not want us to be annihilated, and she does not want to be annihilated. So she is one of our sources of strength and guidance during this time. Okay. And that she will talk to you in the woods, in nature. All right. And Uranus is always about breakthrough too. It's a breakthrough kind of an energy. And I feel like it's in this particular case, it's helping us break the chains that hold us as prisoners of our emotions. It's important, to feel, like I said, but it's also important to let them go, to not let them hold us hostage. All right. She says that in Uranus and Taurus is a whole lot of shaking going on. We're being really shaken out of our comfort zone, because there is a desire for change, but our fear of the unknown may be what is holding us back. But the true alchemy of evolution is about your response to the energy coming in. Your reaction to any situation literally has the power to change the situation itself. If you respond, or we'll say react I'm going to say respond from a place of calmness and just allowing whatever is happening to come in and process it before you actually respond, you can change the whole situation rather than just having a knee-jerk reaction. Okay. All right. As in The Wizard of Oz, Glinda, the good witch, says to Dorothy, "You have had the power all along, my dear." And that's what this is about. It's about us remembering our own power and how we are actually creating our world as we go, our reality as we go. Uranus and Taurus is also about embodied spirituality. And as we integrate our shadows, it allows for cellular upgrades and activation of our light bodies. Okay. All right. And, and just in case I wasn't clear, the shadow has to do with the unhealed parts of ourselves, unresolved traumas, those places where we don't yet love ourselves. Because what it is about meeting our shadow with love. Let's just say, you're feeling jealousy, and you say, "Oh no, I can't feel jealousy. I don't want to," well, but you are. And so, the key is to allow yourself to feel it, to say, yeah. And because it can then bring up maybe some places and you don't feel valued or worthy. And then you can love yourself and meet that shadow part with love instead of projecting that out at just somebody else having more than you or being better than you, or, whatever that might be. Okay. All right. So we also have Ceres, and this new moon is conjunct Ceres. Ceres is at 25, no, excuse me, this is that 24 degrees of Scorpio, trine Neptune at 25 degrees of Pisces. Anyway, first of all, Ceres is one of the faces of the Great Mother. She was the great goddess of Greece and Rome, Ceres Demeter. And one of her meanings is about the cycles of life, especially in Scorpio. And Scorpio is very strong. They're about knowing when to let go of something, that we're always somewhere in the cycle of our life. There is a piece that sometimes we're in a new birth phase, sometimes we're in a letting go phase. But I would say this is really showing us that where we are right now is very much in a letting go phase. Okay. And Neptune, of course, is that part of us, is the divine heart, and helps us remember that we are never alone, and that actually we have never left the source of all creation. Okay. That we all have that divine spark within us. And so I had an experience, and I want to show you this image and make sure I've got this image up before I try to show it to you. Okay. All right, I have it. All right. So it's such a beautiful image. I didn't want to not show it to you. So I had discovered that on a certain day, and I think, what was it, November 4th, And also on November 18th and the 25th, that someone got a download from that there was this beautiful blue light energy coming in. This person got this image from, or this message from some blue light beings that she works with. And so I went to the lake and meditated that day, and really meditated with that beautiful blue light. And what I saw was the blue white light of the Divine Mother encircling the earth. It looked very much like this image here. And what she told me was that, there are many star nations that align with this beautiful light, but she is the source of this light. This is the light and love of the Divine Mother. She is the unconditional love of the universe, and that we are held in her arms and in this light very strongly. Okay. All right. And not just those days. Those days is really strong. The woman who did this channeling said that the blue light is going to be very strong on November 4th, November 18th, and November 25th. That was the message she got. And so if you can envision the blue light of the Mother encircling our world and holding us all in her love. Okay. Now, Neptune brings in, like I said, divine love, and one of the expressions of that is compassion. And forgiveness invites compassion for ourselves and others. It can flood our field with love and dissolve our shadow. It can dissolve our divisiveness and polarity consciousness. And when we no longer project our shadow onto others, but integrate it, it allows for the activation of our light bodies. Because when we can love ourselves completely, there is no more us versus them, because we know that in our hearts, we are all one. We are all embodiments of the source of Creator, okay, of that divine light. And when we do, we can become the unified field of love or unity consciousness. Okay. All right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Sabian symbol for this new moon, because it's pretty impressive too. And the Sabian symbol is obeying their conscience. Soldiers resist orders. We're in this field of some pretty intense war and a lot of conflict in our field. And what this is saying to me is that we must all be in alignment with our inner truth, our conscience, to be centered and calm, to be able to stand our ground. Our inner truth is aligned with our heart, not our mind. We've been talking about Mars. Mars is the warrior, but, in Native traditions, he's a protector. It's where we draw the line and say no. It's where we stand up for ourselves and others. And it has long been said that the only way wars will end is when soldiers refuse to fight and align with their conscience. But the truth of the matter is, it's not what they do. It's how will I respond? What choices I make is what changes the paradigm, because as we know, the external world is a reflection of our inner world. And conflict cannot survive without your participation. And if we can create a field where soldiers feel they can refuse to fight, then we have shifted the paradigm. They can then become protectors of the peace. It is through inner awareness that the power of the individual transcends the power of society. It's an opportunity for a shift of consciousness, and Uranus can indicate that tipping point. All right, so as I talked about Venus is in Libra and conjunct what is called the Super Galactic Center. Venus in Libra is very much about inner peace and harmony, is seeking balance. She's very empathetic and makes for great counselors, as she can see both sides of a situation. And with Libra, there may be a focus on our relationships, okay? And so she's conjunct the Super Galactic Center. Now this, and she's at the actual exact conjunction is on November 10th, because the Super Galactic Center is at 2 degrees, 22 minutes of Libra here in 2023. And so the Super Galactic Center is a black hole, and it is believed that more than 40 other galaxies exist on the other side. But what I have come to understand is black holes are actually portals to other universes, because what happens is that it is a dying star. It is a star that is dying, and all of their mass congeals into a very small point called a singularity that has a tremendous amount of power, and ruptures through the veil into other universes and galaxies. And so with that, some major cosmic teachings come with it, because that energy is just pouring in. And it also has a strong magnetic pull, especially when we have our planets aligned with it. Now, they say some things that I have come to understand is, because it is in Libra, that it can bring with it an obsession around relationship, especially if you have planets there, an obsession with being in a relationship or being involved in relationships in which you might be obsessed about, okay, or obsess upon. And as they say, Libra does not know who they are without that mirror reflection of others. Okay, that's part of the Libran journey, as they're learning to have these cooperative relationships with others. And so they're, it's kind of like the good news and the bad news, but it can create an obsessive relationship if one doesn't know who they are and are really relying on others to be their mirror. But the truth of the matter is, to me, is all relationships are a mirror. They mirror back to us a reflection of our inner state. And the bigger truth is that the whole external world is actually a reflection of our inner world. And so look around and see what is in your field as a reflection of your inner world. So during this time, this could be a very profound teaching. And just for example, let's just say if you're feeling rejected, okay, it may be that you are not feeling worthy yourself. So that is what you're putting out into the field, that you're not worthy, you're not valuable. And so it comes back to show you this so that you can change that. So you can say, oh, I see, it's reflecting back to me. How do I change this? How do I broadcast to the world my value, that I am valuable? If you are encountering conflict, there is something in you that is unresolved, and inviting conflict in for you to become aware of your own anger and its source. Okay. And to know that when you become aware of it, you can make different choices and transmute that emotion. Right. And it's, of course, related to the law of attraction, which is very similar. They're kind of almost two ways of saying the same thing, is that like attracts like, and what we put into the world, the vibration we are broadcasting becomes our experience of the world. All right. All right, so I just going to just a little bit about Mercury and Sagittarius, square Saturn. So Mercury in Sagittarius brings in some more optimism. It's our ability to look at the big picture and connect the dots. And it reminds us that laughter is the best medicine. And square Saturn, I think it's just really saying that to not take ourselves so seriously. Okay. And to be able to laugh at ourselves, there's a lot of truth in humor. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the nodes square Pluto, because Pluto is the ruler of this Scorpio new moon. So Pluto square the node says we are at a crossroads and must evolve or die as a civilization. Okay. And the North Node at 25 degrees of Aries is conjunct Eris. And it feels to me like it can mean war, or it can simply mean the inner battle and how we deal with old hurts and wounds. It takes courage to do the inner work necessary for our growth and evolution. The South Node is at 25 degrees of Libra, and it is conjunct Athena. She is the goddess of wisdom, but she was also a warrior goddess. But they say she knew strategy. She was known for diplomacy, mediation, and the use of strategy. She knew how to win without war. And this South Node is also conjunct Uranus, and not Uranus, Arcturus. And of course, the South Node is our past. The way forward is the North Node in Aries, which is, I think, about the courage to look at our wounds and also to be able to stand up for ourselves and others. But the South Node conjunct Arcturus, the Arcturians say that every civilization in the Milky Way galaxy comes to a place in the development of their technology where they can either self-destruct or use their advanced technology for spiritual growth. And I feel like we are there. The Arcturians say they have mastered inner peace and are now very heavily in our field to help us master inner peace to change our world and shift the paradigm. Bashar says that those who participate in war have lost their connection to source. It is our connection to source that is our conscience and our inner truth, which brings the state of inner peace and calm. And as they say, be calm, nothing is under control, and yet everything is. The universal love underneath all this chaos and turmoil remains constant, and it is the only thing that is real. So find your center in the midst of this unified field of love that is there, and because that is where truth of reality really lies. And that we are in the midst of a revolution of consciousness and this great leap of evolution as we change our inner lead or shadow into spiritual gold. All right, that is what I see for us. I know it was a little bit longer than usual, but it's a very, very powerful new moon because it's so much about healing and evolving. We're in this time of a great leap of evolution is possible when we are able to integrate our shadow and love ourselves and forgive ourselves and each other. Remember that the phoenix rising from the ashes, that transformation takes place through forgiveness. All right, wishing you all a wonderful week. And if you are interested in a reading, please check out my contact information below. Please, if you like this video, please check like and subscribe, as that is super helpful to me. All right, namaste. Wishing you all a super wonderful month.